Hey, I thought that this was worth doing in English, so let's go! So what I'm going to do today with you is just to tell you a little bit, to show you how you can make your own emery sticks. So for those that just happen to be here and have your beginning and you have no idea what the hell that is, we're going to go through this together. So in essence, the pre-polishing is a very crucial part of jewelry making, because according to how well and how really precise and well done the pre-polishing is, this will then make you grant you the possibility, I would say, to have a wonderful, very nice mirror polish. I believe that's how you say in English. So this is a crucial stage of jewelry making that you have to really take into consideration if you want really good, a nice finish to your piece. So here is the way that I'm going to do it. So emery sticks, that's how we call them, are in essence emery paper that are put on a wooden stick like this. So those are ones that I bought online, and this is the traditional way it looks. It's more of a rectangle. This one is slightly too thin, I find. I would say that less than 1 centimeter in thickness. No, anyway, me losing the words. So if it's less than 1 centimeter thick, this is a bit too thin, so you might want to consider making your own, plus it's less expensive. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. So for this demo, because I went to my hardware store and the big planches were way too big for what I was going to use, so I decided to take a smaller piece of wood, and I was like, square felt like a good option in the end, because it allows to have more facets to work on, so you can use it up and I guess make it more efficient by having 4 sides to use rather than just 2 sides with a like traditional emery stick. So we'll see on the long run if this was a good idea or not, to use something square instead of rectangle. And I also took round pieces of wood, because this is super useful when you have to go within cylinders and things to pre-polish. That being said, I will only show you one, like it's the same process for all of them. To go back to the emery in itself, the emery papers are way thicker and more granulated when you touch them, and they're just there to scratch the metal, because scratching the metal in a specific way will help to be able to make us be able to get this really nice polish that we want. The way it works with emery paper is, this is the usual thing, you can add more or less, but we work that way. We work from the roughest to the finest grit. So 240 is the roughest, then you have 400, then you can use 500 or 600, then 800, then 1000, and then if you really want to push it further, you can go even up to 1200. But it always goes in that order. You go from the roughest grit to the finest and smoothest grit. So usually you don't have to go to 1000, but it's better. And so that's the way it goes. I feel I forgot to say something. Then yeah, I'll go back on the way, because you have to pre-polish in a very specific way, which is called in French the cross way, and I will show you what I mean by that. So I've already made for the French version of this video the French, and so I did the 240 grit, and I'm putting the number everywhere so I don't get mixed up when I'll be using it, which I would really recommend you to do if you don't want to get lost all over the place. I'm using a permanent marker. When you choose your wood, it is super important that you choose a wood that has really close to no things. The surface has to be extremely smooth, because if it's not and you have bumps or you have shards, like pieces of wood coming out, then it's not going to be efficient and it's not going to do the job that we want it to do. So it's important to have a really flat, smooth surface of wood. We will also need the tape, this kind of tape you use when you want to repaint a house and you don't want to put like paint all over. You put this on the places you want to cover up. This is the type of tape I'm talking about. So here, this is 25 centimeters long, I suppose it is. And I'm going to use 5 centimeters, which is what, about roughly less than 1.5 inches, I suppose, to be able to grab it and not have emery paper all over the place, which would make it uncomfortable to use if I have to use this in a long period of time. So I already have kind of pieces of emery paper. Usually you can buy them, they come in really big sheets and then you cut them the way you want to. I didn't do a really decent job on the cutting because I wasn't using the emery sticks and I wasn't preparing my own stuff, but I think I would be a bit more neat in the future if I had to redo it. So we're not going to bother cutting off extra, we just have the marks, so I know that I need to let this free, like not use it. It would have been better to show you this on my proper desk, but too late. Alright, we said this. Alright. So you have to put this really across, and we're going to use a kind of sharp, point that I use this to mark the metal, and this will be used to go against the wooden thingy to help break the paper, because you'll see that emery paper is quite different and quite thicker than usual paper, and this is because it has to do the job for the pre-polish. So using this will be a way to kind of cut the paper so that it's really tight against the wood, which is what we want. It has to be super tight if you want it to be really efficient and stay in position.
Not super practical, but whatever.
All right. And then you can choose the amount of paper you want to use, the length of paper, because if you want to prepare them, it's easier to have a lot, so a longer sheet of emery paper will last longer, because then you just have to thorn apart the paper when you're using it. What I mean by that is, when you've the reason why I thought that using square wooden piece, let's put this in the right order, Agnes. The reason why I thought it was interesting to use square wood sticks is because you have 4 sides rather than having only 2 sides that get worn quicker. Having 4 sides I thought could be interesting, and when you've done, because after using it for a long period of time it will smother out and it's not really doing its job, that's when you start getting rid of it and thorn everything apart. I don't know if you say this, it makes sense. You just get rid of the used parts and keep going till you end up with the wooden thingy, and then it means you have to redo the whole process with another full sheet of emery paper. So I'm going to use this. We could use tape at the bottom and at the top, but I don't really see the use of doing it at the top. So we're only going to do it at the bottom. Here we go. I don't know if I did properly on the first one. Yeah, I did. Because you have to really we're going to lose a bit of emery paper here, but it's better to put a bit more on top to be sure it won't move at all. So here we are. So here, that's how you do it. Simple. Then you don't forget to mark it. And talking about the cross thingy, I'm going to mention briefly this so you know what I'm talking about if you're just bumping on this channel and you're new to jewelry making. So this is 400. Okay. So the reason, so the way it goes with the cross when you're using emery papers, I'm going to use a really basic example to illustrate what I'm saying. So let's pretend that this is a full sheet of metal. The way you go with the emery sticks is cross, like you're drawing a cross with the emery stick. So you go one side, and when you're done with the surface you want to pre-polish, you go the perpendicular way, and you do the same thing till everything is smoothed out. Because the reason why we want to do it as a cross is because it will scratch the metal, but in two different ways, which in essence, after the finer the grit, the smaller, like you're making micro abrasions on the metal, and that's what will help us get a really nice pre-polish. So remember, always one side, then the other side like this, and then you switch to a thinner, a smoother grit. So you can start off at 400 if you didn't do a lot of marks on your metal. If you did a lot of marks, I would suggest you to start at 200, 240, and then go down up to 1000. So that's how it works for the pre-polish, and I hope this video was of service. I'm going to do off camera the rest of my sticks. Don't forget, round can be quite interesting, I suppose, to be using if we want to pre-polish insides of rings, for instance. And I think that's it for today, and I'll see you around for another video. Bye!